Hi, we're Beyond Deep. I'm G.
And I'm Kei.
And we are coming to you from Colombia.
And we're so excited to be with you, DFI CBR, for this awesome event, Trans for Trans. I am transgender and non-binary, and my pronoun is they, them, or you can just call me Kei.
And I definitely identify as trans and non-binary, and my pronoun is G, or they, them. What y'all should know about us is that we're polyamorous. We're attracted to basically every different type of person, but we prioritize Black trans people in our lives. So for us, T4T means self-love,
love for our community, which includes concrete support for trans people,
and also prioritizing trans people like romantically and platonically, and just in general. So I center Black trans people by uplifting Black trans people in my thoughts, in my actions, in my everyday life.
Especially being an artist and understanding like how important it is to have like that community support for what you do. Like always trying to be mindful of supporting other Black trans people who are artists or in whatever their endeavor is, like supporting it, like whether that's to signal boost, promote like mutual aid efforts, or to like buy some art from someone,
It's important to center Black trans people and trans people in general because we are part of a marginalized group in society, and because of this marginalization, we need to be uplifted, constantly uplifted, to combat the stigma, to combat the negative feelings and negative stereotypes that are associated with being part of a marginalized identity in general. It's important to do this because when we uplift trans people and Black trans people, we are uplifting everyone.
Black trans love is revolutionary and healing because so much of our lives were like spent getting these messages of self-hatred, and hatred from other people like externalized that we internalized. And so being able to really love your own self as a Black trans person and then also love another Black trans person, it's empowering.
As a Black trans person, it's revolutionary for me to love up on other trans people because as I'm empowering them, I'm empowering the whole community. I'm empowering myself. And that's part of self-love is to, spread love to people like me. And people are taught so much not to love us, not that we're not, and that we're not lovable. And so it's important to me to spend extra energy and extra love on Black trans people.
What I love about being trans and getting into relationships, whether friendships or whatever kind of relationship with other trans people, is just that like camaraderie that's kind of like automatically there in a way, like feeling sort of just understood and seen in a way where I don't feel like I have to explain myself or like I'm not wondering like what is their sort of motive in wanting to get to know me. Is it like a fetish or am I just like a curiosity to them, or like their one trans friend or something.
Tokenization. Just like people will fetishize Black people, people will fetishize trans people. And that's all good if you're down to be fetishized, People need to actually experience love and care from other trans people and from people in general, just as, anyone does, any identity does. As a trans couple, like, it's impacted my identity by having us grow together and learn about each other as trans people and grow into our own trans identity since we've been together for such a young age.
Yeah, since we got together so young, I wasn't really fully aware of my gender identity. Like I didn't have words for it. But as we grew together, like I definitely learned more, and being in a relationship with someone who is also trans like has helped me to be more confident in myself and like more self-accepting.
The fact that we're together and I'm open to trans people in general, I'm open to getting with trans people and I want to get with other trans people. Like, I identify as pansexual to make a distinction that I'm inclusive of like all types of people.
To be very clear, when we say we're pansexual and attracted to all genders, we mean that. We mean trans women, we mean trans femmes, non-binary people, trans men,
non-gendered people,
agendered people, right? Like the whole gambit, everyone. Being trans and, you know, like getting with other trans people who can understand the complexity of my identity as a non-binary person. It's like, I don't feel like I have to work harder to like validate my experience, like by those certain things that someone who isn't trans might have an idea of what it means to be trans and sort of project onto me. Like there's just not that burden. And so there's just like a chance to just like breathe and relax with each other in a different kind of way.
Being like with people who are trans definitely affirms me and my trans identity, like in a very like powerful and impacting way compared to being with someone who's cisgender, because it does feel like we're breaking an unspoken like barrier of like who is attractive and who is lovable, and we're kind of breaking that boundary, and it does feel very empowering to just feel like we're in that space of self-love and love for each other.
Another aspect of our relationship that shaped my identity is being a sex worker, and definitely like doing porn is really important to me because I feel like there's so much stigma around trans people's sexuality and like the idea that that's like the only viable option for a trans person is sex work, and for some people that is really the only viable option that they can have, you know, and just the fact that we can put ourselves out there and do our porn and sort of just break down some of that stigma.
Yeah, like as a trans couple, like doing porn is very important because we are actually showing like authentic like dynamics of what it means to be like trans for trans. That is a visual representation of like our love for each other and our love for trans people. And that's important to put out into the world because it does just that. It affirms trans people and trans love. And affirming that is affirming to everyone. As an ally, like you should support Black trans sex workers and Black trans people in general by like contributing to their work, by buying their material, buying their content.
And if you don't want to buy content, or you know you're not trying to actually use the service of a sex worker, but you still want to support Black trans sex workers, then another great way is to just give money. Literally, like no one knows what someone else needs better than that person. So just give your money to them and let them just do what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, just give your resources to Black trans sex workers and just show up. Show up when you're needed. If someone's asking for help, help them out.
Because so much of our gender identity is tied to sexuality in our society, like in cis heteronormative society, like if you are a man, you are attracted to a woman, you know? Like, a lot of trans people, I feel like, can sort of get into relationships with people just to affirm that their identity and not necessarily, like, feel like they can be open to other trans people or other gender identities. And so really just being able to break out of that idea of who I choose as a partner determines what my gender identity is in the world, you know, or who I choose as a partner even really defines my sexuality. Like, being trans for trans makes me feel like I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and also showing up, like, for trans people, like, it doesn't matter if it's robotic. Like, showing up, that means, like, authentically caring. That means, like, something that you really want to do. A lot of allies will, you know, use certain dialect, use certain like lingo and talk about like trans things and be very PC about it, but actually aren't showing up in actual authentic ways to trans people. And that's like the point. Like you need to show up for trans people like you would show up for anyone else who you care about in your life, regardless of whether they're trans or not.
Right.
Like show up and care.
Support, care, love, those are all actions to be shown.
Yeah, we have love for you all.